My sister didn't just betray me. She turned my life into a bank from which she could shamelessly steal. And my boyfriend? He was her accomplice in this crime, ready to leave me with empty hands. They thought I'd just watch and keep quiet. But here's what they didn't count on. I know how to get even. My name is Mia. I'm 25, and my life is no longer the dull story of a girl who always stays in the shadows. I have an older sister, Ashley, the family's golden girl, always dazzling like a Christmas tree, shining from afar. She's only 2 years older than me, but that small difference was enough for Mom to put her on a pedestal early on. Ashley was the princess of our family kingdom. Long blonde hair like a fairy tale princess, eyes bluer than the sky, and charm in spades. A perfect picture, really. But I had long known there was something not so charming behind that facade. Mom always looked at her as the epitome of perfection, while I stayed in the shadow of this radiant star. While Ashley mastered the arts of charm and manipulation, I simply existed. She found a way to make me do all the dirty work while coming out squeaky clean. That was our family dynamic. She was untouchable, and I was always at her beck and call. But as the saying goes, when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. I honestly didn't expect my sister would betray me so completely. It wasn't enough for her to push my buttons day in and day out. She decided to meddle in my finances. And not just her. She roped in my significant other, Tyler. Yes, my own boyfriend. One day, I stumbled upon their messages on his phone by accident. And trust me, it was quite the discovery. Ashley, my supposedly kind and caring sister, was very insistent, trying to persuade Tyler to take money from my account for some project. Quite the plan, really, using her little sister as a personal ATM. Should I charge her interest too? I picked up the phone, looked at the screen, and couldn't believe my eyes. My boyfriend was sitting right next to me, clueless that I'd uncovered his and Ashley's scheme. In her messages, everything was presented as the perfect plan. Profitable project, huge potential, the kind of things that lure in guys like Tyler. Only one detail: they were using my money. At first, I honestly thought it was some sick joke or mistake. Maybe I misread it? You know, sometimes a phone glitches and you see something completely different. But no, this wasn't a glitch or a mistake. No, the messages were as clear as road lines on the highway. Ashley wasn't subtle. She was straight up pushing my boyfriend to pull money from my account for this perfect investment. Perfect, sure. Just not for me. And you know what angered me the most? That sweet, fake tone of hers, as if she genuinely cared about everyone, when really, she was just a wolf in sheep's clothing. Mia has always supported your decisions. That line right there made me breathe fire. Yes, apparently, supporting his decisions meant funding them. Ashley, without a shred of shame, hinted to Tyler that since he was such a successful investor, what would it hurt to take, say, $5,000 from my account? After all, what would it matter to me? You love her, so why should that money sit idle? Ashley knew all about my savings, how long I'd worked to save that money, and still she wanted to bleed me dry. At that moment, only one thought came to mind. What on earth is going on? And who are these people around me? Enough. I turned to Tyler, who was sitting right there, and started with a simple question. Do you happen to know what's going on here? He immediately began to sweat. I mean, you could see the drop running down his forehead, his eyes darting like he'd just realized he had a front-row ticket to a bullfight, and I was the bull. He started muttering something about me misunderstanding, and Ashley just suggesting an idea, but he could barely breathe properly. It would have been quite a sight if I hadn't been so furious at that moment. I took his hand and, strangely enough, said as calmly as I could, "All right, explain what's going on here." And that's when he finally spilled it all, every last detail. Turns out my dear sister not only knew about my money, but she had also found a way to access my bank account through Tyler. You won't believe it, but she'd already managed to transfer the money to her own account. I felt like I was on the verge of passing out, but the rage kept me firmly conscious. I sat there, staring at Tyler, trying to hold back tears. Funny, isn't it? This guy I'd built dreams with, the one I trusted, turned out to be nothing more than a pawn in the hands of my own sister, who always knew how to play the game so well I couldn't keep up. You know, when someone you trust betrays you for the first time, it's not just painful. It feels like everything you've built crumbles in front of you, brick by brick. And you're just there, watching the show, completely powerless. I was curious to hear what he would say, what brilliant excuse he'd offer. Maybe he'd tell me how he was captivated by her charm, or that she made him do it. But no. Tyler came up with something like, "Ashley seems so confident. Plus, it was a safe way to double our savings, you know?" That was a show worth the ticket price. He really thought it was just a safe way to double our money. You know what safe actually means? It's when your money doesn't disappear from your account without a trace. My savings were just a toy for their little investment game. Every word he spoke felt like a brick, building a wall of mistrust between us. I looked at that wall, which had suddenly grown between us, and realized, this past year, all our plans, dreams, it was all one big lie. A year full of illusions. Yes, he was with me, but all his thoughts had already drifted to Ashley, my sweet sister, who thought it was perfectly normal to use the people closest to her. And as the cherry on top of this cake of lies, I later discovered one more juicy detail that pushed me to the edge. Turns out, Ashley didn't just pocket my money. No, she already had plans for it. She was planning a luxurious vacation, set to bask in splendor on my dime. And Tyler, my so-called beloved, was planning to join her. Can you imagine the picture in my mind? My sister and my boyfriend enjoying a getaway with money I'd saved for my future. Talk about family values, right? At that moment, I was ready to scream. My head was spinning. How could they sink so low? After everything came to light, I knew a simple discussion wouldn't be enough. Clearly, there was no point in feeling sorry for these two. Tyler and Ashley were a pair of con artists, and who better than me to put them in their place? If they wanted to play games, fine. I'd give them a real game with a very different ending. I needed a plan. Not just any plan, but one that would leave Ashley drowning in debt with her dreams in ruins. She wanted to profit at my expense? Let's see who comes out on top. Of course, this didn't mean it would be easy. Ashley always had a knack for skating on the edge. Cautious, secretive, as if she was born to keep her schemes hidden. Catching her red-handed wouldn't be simple. But that just motivated me more. I knew she'd want to profit from any situation, like a cat stalking its prey. And that was my hook. I started working strategically. I made calls to the bank, asked casual questions about accounts, requested blocks and reviews, gradually building up the full picture of her scam. It was essential to do everything right so that, in the end, she'd be caught, like a mouse in a trap. Every one of my actions was part of a little game I was staging for Ashley, only she had no clue she was just a pawn in it. Sometimes, it even felt like I was in a spy movie. Imagine, I'm calling the bank, suppressing a smile, pretending to be the concerned sister who just wants to check on the account. My questions sounded innocent, but each one brought her closer to her downfall. The deeper I got, the clearer it became. This time, Ashley wouldn't escape me. My moves worked so perfectly, I could hardly believe how smoothly everything fell into place. Ashley was utterly stunned when she discovered her cards and accounts suddenly frozen. It was that moment when her "I've got everything under control" attitude vanished like a mask falling off. She'd been so sure she had it all covered, but no, not this time. Her life, which she had so carefully constructed at my expense, was starting to crumble. and I watched it all like the premiere of my favorite series. Spoiler alert, the main character went straight to hell. And yes, she looked the part. Ashley was scrambling, trying to figure out where all her money had gone and who could have outwitted her so completely. I could almost hear her running through everything in her head, from the bank calls to the sudden realization that her brilliant idea had backfired. And guess who was enjoying every second of it? That's right, me. There's nothing quite like watching someone's arrogance implode, especially when the culprit has no idea that I'm the one behind the entire spectacle. It was hilarious to watch her try to claw her way out of the chaos like a cornered cat. She even went to Mom for support, hoping that her golden girl status would save her. But, as it turns out, Mom wasn't blind, and her patience wasn't endless. I think she finally started to see that Ashley wasn't just a pretty face with good manners, but a real problem. Mom wasn't exactly rushing to her aid, which only added to the drama. So there she was, my sister, left alone with her mess. Her hopes of easy money melting away like ice in the sun. She was in complete isolation, with no access to my funds, and, most importantly, no lifeline. Inside, I felt an overwhelming satisfaction watching Ashley's carefully built house of cards collapse, one by one. Her brilliant schemes, her deceitful tricks, all of it had backfired like a tidal wave, and I was the little stone that had set it all in motion. It was incredibly satisfying to see her, the sister who'd always dismissed me, finally realized that she hadn't just lost. She'd lost to me, the younger sister she'd never cared about. She didn't just lose the money. That, after all, was only half the loss. But her reputation as the golden girl? Her precious image? Especially in front of our parents, who had looked up to her all her life as an angel with wings? Oh yes, it was a masterpiece, worthy of a gilded frame. I could see my mom sighing and raising her eyebrows as she listened to Ashley's clumsy explanations. It was clear that Mom was finally starting to realize that her little angel was a bit more tarnished than she'd thought. I could barely keep from smiling, watching her in such a pathetic state. How ironic. The very Ashley who was so sure that only she deserved our admiration and respect was left with nothing, and her once pristine reputation lay in shreds. Her future plans crumbled like wet paper. And the best part? She didn't even realize that I'd orchestrated it all. It was as if she thought the world had simply fallen on her by the force of some twisted karma. And although I'd love to say that I felt satisfaction and peace in that moment, my inner voice whispered, "This isn't over yet, dear sister." When Ashley finally discovered that it was all my doing, there was, of course, an epic show. She created quite the scene at our parents' house, a true tragedy for the front row audience. She stormed in as if she had the script for the worst movie of the year, and without wasting a second, she accused me of betrayal. And you know what I did? I simply shrugged. I'm no actress to indulge her melodrama. I just took back what was mine, that's all. "Oh, so you think it's fine to steal my money, but it's wrong for me to reclaim what's mine?" I said, looking at her as calmly as if we were discussing the weather. Her eyes shot daggers, but inside I saw emptiness. All her words, all her attempts to justify herself. There was nothing left of her confidence. I could feel her anger, but she knew that no amount of words or tears would bring back her lost money and ruined reputation. Mom stood beside us, and I watched as she just froze, finally realizing what her favorite daughter had really been all along. She didn't say a word, just watched the destruction of her illusion. It might have been the first moment Mom truly saw Ashley. Not as a golden girl, but as a queen of petty schemes and deep-seated greed. Ashley shouted, promised that she would get her revenge. It was laughable. Yes, in her world, revenge probably meant leaving me bad reviews or sending angry messages in a group chat. I knew she wasn't capable of anything real. Her resources had disappeared along with her business plans. and her bravery and confidence ran dry the moment her cards got blocked. And Tyler? That genius disappeared from my life as quickly as he could. The moment he realized I'd seen through his manipulations, and let's face it, he could no longer count on my money. At that moment, I felt the game was over, and that, at last, my victory wasn't just almost. It was final and absolute. And so, there I stood on the porch, overwhelmed with this powerful feeling of victory and freedom. It felt like I'd finally shrugged off a heavy backpack I'd been carrying my whole life. You know, when you feel free but something invisible keeps holding you back, as if someone keeps slipping bricks into your load when you're not looking. That was my travel kit of family baggage, relationships that pulled me down. From the moment I took that final step over the threshold, they were no longer part of my life. Ahead of me lay a blank, open road, and most importantly, it was mine alone. Ashley was probably sitting somewhere in her room right now, realizing that she was neck-deep in debt, with her reputation ruined, and chaos all around her. Picture it. Her eyes filled with anger, accusations, maybe even fear. She'd been so used to living like she ruled the world, as if everything revolved around her, like she controlled it all. But now her entourage was gone. Tyler had bolted as quickly as he'd arrived, her money was gone, and our parents no longer looked at her with admiration. This was her downfall, and I had not a single ounce of pity for her. Every step I took away from their house felt like a step toward a new life. I imagined everything that had weighed me down for years falling away, their expectations, their disappointments, their demands that I be better, more successful, or the all-time favorite, more like Ashley. Well, guess who's the winner now? Ashley is left with debts and ruins, and I have an entire life ahead of me. Now I could dream again, make my own plans, knowing that no one would try to tell me how to live. No more golden girl, no more comparisons, and best of all, no more support that was only a means to control and clip my wings. This wasn't just a new chapter, it was a launch into my own independent life. Standing there, I realized that I didn't need to look back anymore. My future was finally mine, and I knew that from now on, things would only get better. Yes, the road would be long, but at least it was mine.